everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are able to hear me okay?
I can hear
Yes,
you.
we
I'm
can.
having problems on my station, so I'm just gonna have to refresh my page here real quick
Yeah.
here.
Angela, it shows that your microphone's off, but maybe it's not. That your mic is muted, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
There we go. Now I see everybody. Sorry about that, Stuart.
No, hey, technology. I understand.
I hate it more and more every time we do an episode. There's always something that goes wrong. It's never like, just turn it on and go. It's always like, why the camera was just working last week.
Yeah, I know. I had a podcast a while back, same thing. Suddenly there was this bizarre echo as though I was reverberating in a canyon somewhere. And it was really weird, and we got that figured out.
Yeah, we had the same thing. We had to switch to this platform a couple months ago, and it's still been a nightmare. And the first couple of episodes the first episode was the guest was echoing like crazy, and then we fixed it. And then the second episode we were echoing. It's like, I can't take this anymore. I can't stand the sound.
Yeah. Well, it is sure great to meet you two. I hope Capone makes some kind of a special appearance.
Oh.
I'm going to be disappointed, you guys. I paid to see Capone.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, he's not here today.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
We have to add to our registration forms, like, do you require Capone to be a part of this?
Yeah, exactly. And with a cigar hanging out the side of his mouth.
Correct.
Because I love that.
So, well, again, welcome to the show. This is episode 19, season 2, and we are talking to Dr. Stuart Jones. I didn't catch that when we
Woo! Yeah, come on now.
We
You
got
can
a
throw a
doctor.
stir in there too if you want. I don't know. No.
So we're here today to talk about For the Love of Stephen. A book
Let's do.
A book that I've actually had the pleasure to start reading.
Oh, thank you.
So yes. And I have to tell you, I'm doing the audio book because when I'm traveling back and forth to work, I have the opportunity to listen to audiobooks, and I love the fact that you're actually narrating your own story.
Yeah, it was a joy to be able to do that. My book coach, I have a book coach, and that sounds impressive. I have a book coach. I am really somebody.
I love that.
I know.
Great.
Woo, I am somebody. So my book coach said, Stuart, it's a memoir, dude. You want to narrate your own book. I mean, that makes sense. You tell your story, right? So Angela, thanks for listening to me. My Lord, that's a 9-hour listen. I'm going to be in your head for 9 hours. You will need therapy by the time that audio book is done. You will need, and I'm not paying for it.
Duly noted.
Okay.
No, but so far it's been really, it's been wonderful to listen to you talk, because I think, where you're coming from, this is coming from a place of in your own heart, so
yeah.
I think when you have somebody else narrating your book, you lose that piece of it. I mean, this is your heartfelt story, so I think it's a great thing that we're able to hear it straight from you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I think that's what caught my attention, was that the whole story behind the whole thing.
Yeah. But I was really cheap to hire me. It didn't cost anything. Charlize Theron, Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, they were all busy. I never heard back from them. Morgan Freeman, that'd have been awesome. Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Woo! But we were stuck with the author, boring Stuart Jones. So anyway,
Yeah, but you know, only you would be able to add the inflections
yeah.
and the persona to the story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
it was fun to record that in a professional studio. But I'll be honest, it was tough at times too, because again, telling my brother's story can still be emotional 20 years later. And at one point near the end, I just lost it, you guys. I started crying. And the audio engineer, who's a wonderful guy named David Stilson, who does all kinds of audio work. Anyway, I looked over at him and I said, "Man, I got to cut." And he was crying. And then here's the cool thing. Then he walks over to me with two things in his hand. I kid you not. He came over with a box of Kleenex and a wine bottle and a glass.
See, now here's somebody gets excited over a cocktail, just like
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. I think David was basically saying, "Stuart, we'll get through this on wine, man. You can finish this on a couple glasses of wine." And so I did.
I love that.
He's a great guy.
So, tell us like some of the things that having a brother with disabilities taught you about, dignity, belonging, and being fully human, I guess.
Yeah, the interesting thing about growing up with an older brother with special needs, he had intellectual and developmental disability. I didn't even know he had special needs for a long time, and neither did my other brother and sister. We both, as we talked about Stephen's story, and as I'm writing the book, they're like, we didn't even realize until we were old enough to see that there were differences. Certainly he looked different, but gosh, we all look different, right? We all have weird looks. We're we're all different for sure.
Yeah.
But he had differences that were quite noticeable, like sometimes many special needs people do. But also, we began to notice, unfortunately, the way people reacted to Steve. It wasn't always a good reaction. People would look at him and then do a double take and back up as though he had the hantavirus or COVID-19 or something. They just were kind of taken back by him, and they also went so far at school as to I saw them, making fun of him, mocking him, making fun of him. Sometimes literally trying to pick a fight with him. So I realized, I got a special needs brother, and it was really then that my parents and I kind of had more of a conversation, like, "Mom and Dad, what's going on with Steve? I mean, why do kids pick at him? Why does he stutter? Why is he almost blind?" Then I got more of the story as a young kid, and some advice from them as best they could, how to be the brother of someone with special needs. But Steve, we call it special needs and disability, but sometimes I think it's us that have special needs when we can't see how beautiful these individuals are.
And I was going to say that you talked about your siblings and not realizing that there was anything different. I think that's the beauty of family when you're growing up. Siblings together, you don't notice those things. It's not until you get older or until somebody points it out to you and you're like, I never noticed that. Okay,
Yeah. Well, there's so many things. Yeah, that's right, Angela. I mean, there's so many things my parents did right. And one of the things they did right, they didn't treat Steve any differently than the other three of us, right? He wasn't coddled. He wasn't babied. He got in trouble, we would get in trouble. They treated him the same. They expected him to work hard, to learn what he could, to do his best in whatever he tried, just like they expected of us. So we didn't see any differences in Steve until society kind of started pointing them out to us by their reactions, people's reactions. So,
what year are we talking about, like roughly?
Yeah, this is a long time ago, man. Get ready. 1954 is when Stephen was born. I was born in 1961. Don't do the math. I'm old. I get it. Don't start counting on your fingers.
I was born in 66, so I'm not going to point fingers at anybody.
No, really, were you? You young puppy. Yeah, he was born in 1954. Here's the shocking thing about special needs kids. In 1954, depending on where you lived, New York, Indiana, wherever you live, anywhere from 50 to 80% of parents would put their special needs child in an institution.
Yeah, because they didn't
They
have the training and they didn't know any better.
They didn't have any training. There were no pamphlets, there were no support groups, no resources, no special education was really underway yet in 1954. A couple years after that, it would start to emerge. And Steve eventually got some special education from a trained educator dealing with special needs children. But yeah, that was a different time and a different era.
Absolutely.
Parents either put them away in an institutional warehouse, is what I call them. Those places were terrible. Most of them were terrible, unless they were private and rich people could, afford better care. Or parents just hid them away in their home. There was, in that day and era, there was some shame associated with having a special needs child. It's kind of like that people would look at my parents like, what did you guys do wrong? What was your sin? Why is God punishing you?
Yeah, I grew up with I had an uncle who wasn't much older than me, but he had developmental issues, and so I kind of grew up with that, but we would play with him like any other member of the family. You know what I mean? Of course, me being me would be the one that would always like taunt him to the point that he would swear, and then my grandfather would come out and yell at him, and then we'd all run away, and then I'd get him going again. Just get my grandfather to come outside and yell at him. But typical kid stuff, though. You know what I mean? We do it to everybody.
Absolutely. Steve was my best friend growing up. I mean that sincerely. We were the best of playmates, and my other siblings know that to be true. My sister Susan, my other brother Scott, were only 11 months apart, and they were really close growing up. I was, 8 years younger than Stephen, but the way my mother described it when I was interviewing her for the book was, well, Stuart, you were a child, and Steve forever had the mind of a child, and you were great playmates. So Steve and I wrestled, and we roughhoused, and we played G.I. Joe and Matchbox cars and Lincoln Logs on the floor in our little tiny bedroom. We called it our little play kingdom. And Steve was just my best friend growing up. So naturally, as I got older and became more of a young man, I got very defensive on behalf of Stephen. I even got into a couple fisticuffs where I had to defend Stephen from people that would want to physically hurt him just because he was different. And he was an easy target for people to ridicule or to make fun of or to belittle. And man, I got to an age where, I wasn't having that crap anymore. So,
Good for you. Good for you. Absolutely. Now,
well, we all felt like protectors of Steve because, sometimes the vulnerable among us can't protect themselves. They can't speak for themselves. And Stephen, couldn't always do that. So we had to be there by his side to make sure he wasn't harmed.
Right.
He was harmed verbally a lot, but we had to make sure he wasn't physically harmed too at times.
That's awesome.
But sometimes
all stuck together.
Sometimes he did get beat up, as Angela will discover, in the book. There's a couple ugly chapters in there about those that took advantage. And some of the people actually did beat him up for his money more than a few times. So yeah, it just, growing up with a sibling was just something that I still today consider a blessing. And I'm sorry, Tango, back to your original question, which was an excellent one. I learned from Steve how to be joyful and to accept others unconditionally, how to love deeper and bigger, because Steve just didn't know a stranger, which was beautiful, but also made him vulnerable to the bad guys, right? But Steve just had a joyful heart, and he taught me about dignity, and doing the best you can despite your limitations. So God, I learned a lot from him that I didn't even know I was learning growing up. But now in retrospect, looking back, I realized maybe I'm a better man because I grew up with Stephen Keith Jones.
Well, I think that's amazing. Like when I think Angela agrees, like when you think back on things, you realize, wow, that was kind of cool. You know what I mean? I learned this from him. But you're not realizing it at the time, because you're just kids having fun, hanging out. But like I said, when you write the book, when you're writing a book, especially, you're really starting to pay attention to all those details, growing up. And, I wish I had paid more attention to my uncle when we were younger, you know what I mean? But as kids, our families grew apart a little bit and we lost touch. But, we also
Yeah.
have, we have a great nephew who's on the spectrum, and
okay.
we're just loving every minute of watching him go from a baby to now he's a little person, and to watch these changes. And we've learned from
Yeah.
watching him, what you can do, what you can't do. Like, you can't just run up and grab him, you know what I mean? You gotta, he'll come to
Exactly.
you when he wants to come to you. And those
Yeah.
moments when he comes to you, like, my heart just like wells right up. I'm like, oh my goodness, he wants me to hold him, he wants me to pick him up. So it's those little
Yeah.
things. But when you're dealing with a
Yeah.
child, on the I'm always afraid of using the wrong terminology, but I guess on the
Oh no, you
spectrum,
won't. You won't.
little things like that just make you feel like, wow, that's so
Yeah.
awesome. You know what I mean?
Well, Tango, if he wants you to hold him, man, that is a special, because you've entered into his circle of love and trust,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
First time it
people
happened,
on
I
the
know.
autism spectrum, yeah, depending on where they are on that spectrum,
Yeah.
that's not an easy thing for them sometimes to give up. Is, who can I trust? So he
Right.
trusts you. That's a beautiful thing,
Oh, I agree, and I actually made his mother cry one time. We were talking to her on the phone, and I stopped and said, "Listen, I just want to say, I'm so proud of you and Eric, because what you've done for him, what I mean, you've done everything possible to make sure that he's growing up in a world where he's got all the resources available to him. You know what I mean? And to watch him,
Yeah.
like I said, to watch him go from the point where you couldn't interact with him, and then you could touch his toes, and then you could hold his hand, and then you get a smile watching all these steps change, you know what I mean? And even speech,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just amazing, you know what I mean? I told her, I said, you
Yeah.
guys should be patted on the back. And she was like, you're making me
Oh,
cry. I'm like, well, I'm not making you cry. I'm just telling you how I feel about you guys. You're doing a wonderful job.
yeah. And most parents don't think they are doing a wonderful job. As I've taken my book and I've done many speaking engagements, I'm meeting parents, lots of parents with special needs kids, and bless their hearts, all of them feel like they're messing it up. And I'm saying, no, you're not. There's no instruction manual for any special needs child. There's not. You can listen to doctors and clinicians and experts, and you can read books, and they do, but every child is uniquely beautiful and different. And Tango, as you were saying, every parent's got to navigate, what can my child do? What can they
Absolutely.
understand? What will they, how do they perceive the world? What's right? What's wrong in their worldview? It's a navigational process. And my parents, when they had Stephen, were just 18 years old. I want you to imagine being
Wow.
18
Wow.
and you're fresh out of high school. Mom's like, hey, guess what? We're going to have a baby. And dad's like, holy, you know what? And, oh, the funny thing is my dad.
We have an
says,
explicit rating, so you can swear.
well, my dad says to my mom, he's like, are you sure? She's like, yeah, I'm throwing up constantly. I'm pretty sure that there's a baby on the way. And bless their hearts, their first baby is Steve, right? And they recognized early on, just from instincts, that he wasn't developing like a normal baby and toddler. He just wasn't. So they took him to the doctor, long story short, when he's about 2 years old. And in 1956, the doctor would use terms like, well, Keith, Phyllis, I'm pretty sure he's mentally retarded. He's going to be slow and mentally disabled. And that was the term they used back then, right? Now we call it intellectual disability or autism. It's the same thing, Down syndrome. They're all in the intellectual disability category. My parents are like, holy cow. Okay, we're now 20 years old. Dad just got drafted to go to the Army in North Carolina. They're taking this special needs child along, and they put him in a little tiny trailer home on the Army base, and they're trying to figure out what are we going to do? The only thing they knew for sure that I loved my parents for was when they were advised to put him in an institution by their family doctor and by my father's mother. My parents didn't even think about it. They said, no, this is our child. We will try to figure out how to give him the fullest life. And I think for they weren't terribly uneducated, but they had a high school diploma. Good for that was great. It's good for them.
I mean, both my parents came from a farm, and it's funny you said Phyllis.
My dad too.
My mom's name is Phyllis.
Well, my dad, Tango, my dad grew up on a farm. So yeah, what he knew is how to feed the hogs and the cows and ride a horse and, how to work a plow. But so just to tell you a quick story that I think is also remarkable. My parents, my mother talks about the fact that, they listened to all the experts in 1954, 55, 56, all the experts with all the advice. A lot of it was theory and not much pragmatics. But my parents kind of got down in the dumps for a short time. And then one magical day, my parents described this, and I describe it in the book. My Aunt Betty, my mother Phyllis's sister Betty, she was determined to teach Steve at age 3 to pedal a tricycle. Because again, he had intellectual and developmental challenges, right? She worked with him every day until one day he finally figured out how to make his feet move the pedals forward. My parents said Betty yelled at them. They came out from the house outside. My mom started to cry as though he had won the Tour de France or something. And why that's important is because my father and mother both said it was at that moment we decided it was no longer going to be what can't Stephen do. It was going to be what can Stephen do. And what can we teach him? Let's find out his capabilities and not listen to all the negative prognosticators who are telling us he'll never read or talk or walk. Let's stop listening to that bull crap and let's figure out for ourselves what Stephen Jones can do. And that made all the difference in his life.
Which, that's pretty amazing in itself. I mean, especially like you're saying in the time that it was. One of the things, Stuart, that one of the programs I'm involved with at work outside of our podcast is I work for our local health department, and one of the programs is a state mandated program. It's children with special needs.
Good.
So basically we have providers who, go into homes, they help with speech, they help with occupational therapy, they help with, all of the things. So all of these children now in this day and age actually have those opportunities to become, functional in the life ahead of them, whereas as I'm listening to you talk and as I've, been getting into your book, we hear some of the challenges that your parents were even faced with along, in that day and age. Like now kids go to school, they go to special schools and they are with other children that are the same, and they teach them to interact and tune out, the things that they have to tune out to, really just kind of function, whether they're wearing headphones or they're, their fidget spinners or whatever the case may be,
That's right.
So can you tell us a little bit, like what was Stephen doing in those days? Like other than, like your aunt actually teaching him to ride the bike, and were there schools at that point? Like was he, basically coexisting with like, I don't want to say normal kiddos, but that's kind of like how they say it, it's like you've got the kids that are functioning as opposed to the kids that are on the spectrum who are trying to learn to, intermingle with the normal, I guess you could say.
I agree. Well, Angela, first let me say thank you for your work in doing that and making their lives better and helping coordinate, care for them. That's wonderful.
You can just call the normal people muddles.
Now, I want you to know Tango is shocked that you have a life outside of this podcast. All right. He is, that's concerning to him. But I'm sure you do, Angela. I'm sure you do. I do call Stephen a pioneer in terms of his educational journey. There's a chapter called, The Road Less Traveled, and that's the one Steve took. His educational journey began because there were no special education classes. So my mom and dad first stuck him in a kindergarten class in their little town of Camden, Indiana. And the kindergarten class was 20-some neurotypical kids. And here's Stephen, neurodivergent, right? And his wonderful kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Kendall, had no training. and she can't spend all of her time with Stephen. She's got a whole class to teach.
Right.
So anyway, poor Stephen did not really technically pass kindergarten. So Mrs. Kendall says to my parents, he needs another year of kindergarten. They're like, okay. So Steve did 2 years of kindergarten. At the end of year 2, Mrs. Kendall's like, Steve needs a 3rd year of kindergarten. My parents were like, no. And about that time, fate gave them a wonderful idea. They read in the local newspaper about Purdue University. We grew up near Purdue University. Purdue was on the cutting edge with Dr. Gephardt, on the cutting edge of working with special needs kids. It was theoretical and pragmatic, and they started a center called the Children's Center at Purdue University for special needs kids. Long story short, my parents eventually got Steve enrolled to be assessed and evaluated because they were trying to help mom and dad understand his capabilities, motor skills, coordination, cognitive abilities. And in the meantime, Angela, to answer your question, there still really wasn't a school. So my parents heard about this little thing called the Wabash Center that was started by a group of parents, just like my parents, who said, we need some way to educate our children. We know they can learn to some degree. So they started this little center, and it was really just throwing a whole bunch of kids in a room together, whether they were age 4 or age 13, it didn't matter. You threw in this room together like a melting pot, and you had volunteers who weren't trained, trying their best to teach them the alphabet and their numbers and how to read and their colors and shapes. And they did that for a couple years until finally an elementary school in Lafayette, Murdoch Elementary, hired their first special education teacher. Mrs.
What year was that?
1962.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
1962. So Steve was about 8 years old when he finally was in a special education classroom. Again, long story short, he journeys through that. And in the meantime, Purdue University is trying hard to convince the Lafayette Public School Corporation that there are some special needs kids like Stephen who have abilities, they should be integrated into the public school. And the school system was like, I don't think so, bro. I don't think so. Oh my God, parents fought against it. Teachers fought against it. They were worried that they were literal, and the superintendent was literally worried that these, quote, retarded kids would be a bad influence on the normal kids and make them misbehave and make them learn less and be distracting. And that, again, Dr. Gephardt and his team kept working, years of negotiation, until finally the Lafayette School Corporation and Jefferson High School said, yes, we'll give it a try. Stephen was 16, finally got integrated into a high school with neurotypical kids. Now, there was a special education unit for him and his classmates, but he also got to go to some rudimentary classes, basically English or basic math or PE classes. But he got to be integrated, and Stephen graduated in 1975, I think it was, 74, 75, with a real high school diploma. Not a participation ribbon, for, good job. He actually earned a high school diploma. The proudest day of my parents' life was seeing Steve. And in the book, there's a picture of him getting that diploma, being handed that high school diploma. Big day. But, that was Stephen's educational journey. He was the first one through the wall. And they say that the first ones through the wall get the bloodiest, right?
Yeah.
And there were too many times that my parents would get phone calls from the school saying, all right, Stephen's coming home with a cut above his eye and his nose is scratched up. Sorry, some kids at lunch or in PE roughed him up a little bit. Sorry. I mean, it was an experimental time. Now we see in public schools the integration of special needs students all the time, and it's commonplace.
Yep.
It doesn't really shock us. And I'm so happy about that, that neurotypical kids are growing up seeing special needs kids in the same facility, and they're seeing that as part of the educational process. I'm so happy about that. Very happy.
Oh, me too, absolutely.
And it should be that way. I mean, they should be integrated with, other kids and other individuals their age. You want them to be able to, like some of their, some of these kiddos are just, they mimic, other individuals. So what a great way to get them to do that part of it, like, okay, so here's this person doing, whatever. And it just kind of like moves them in a forward direction as far as I can see.
Yeah. And now, fortunately, we have so many experts in this field, and we have the tools to be able to accurately assess and evaluate each special needs child, because some really can't be integrated fully into a neurotypical.
I've got a niece who's never been to school because she's I mean, she's got a lot of physical and mental disabilities, and she's just there's no way to get her into school. I mean, she just wouldn't go out. It would be more harmful to her than helpful.
Right. Yeah. And I certainly don't want to put down parents because some have hardly any choice but to institutionalize depending on the severity. They may not be able to care adequately for a severely disabled child, cognitively or developmentally or in any way. So I don't fault them for making those tough decisions. It's just that my parents said, we think our child has some abilities that are not being recognized yet. We're going to find out what those are by
and what a brave choice back in 54.
Thank you.
That's such a I mean, I think some of the technology now in hospital stuff is a little scary. I can't imagine going back, 1954 with 1/4 of what we have now as far as technology in the healthcare system. It had to be very scary, and kudos to them for saying, we're going to do this. We're going to make this work.
I think so too. I give them a lot of credit for that too. My mom was more protective of Steve, understandably, the maternal instincts. My father just kept putting Steve out there in the public, and my father kept saying, "You're going to see my child." He put him in regular 4-H club. He put Steve in regular Boy Scouts club. I'm just picturing my dad walking in with Steve, and they're saying to the Boy Scout masters, "Hey, my son Steve here. Take a look at him. Yeah, take a look at him. He's going to be joining your Boy Scout troop. Aren't you excited?" Woo! And by golly, what can you say? So Stephen was really blessed. He had 2 great Boy Scout masters, but that's the way my dad did it. And just to tell you another really fascinating story that I can't explain, because sometimes, I know you've heard this term, there are autistic savants, and I guess the movie Rain Man with Dustin Hoffman typifies that, where they have this genius thing going on. Temple Grandin, who wrote the foreword for my book, she's an autistic savant. She's actually a genius. She's such a genius, but also autistic. Well, Steve was not a savant. Don't get me wrong. Steve could not do crazy calculations of algebra or calculus. He couldn't. But Steve had this amazing ability to play chess, and that's a complicated strategic game.
That's a complex game.
Yeah.
I hated playing him. Everybody hated playing him because it was demoralizing.
Do I have to?
It was There's a story in the book about my uncle playing him, and he whooped my uncle 3 straight matches. My uncle, the valedictorian of his class, was demoralized.
I'm not coming for Christmas anymore.
But my dad got Steve to join the chess team. And again, that's a funny story because, again, here comes this special needs kid, and you can imagine all the kids on the chess team saying, "Oh, I guess we got to play with the retarded kid. You know, we'll be nice and we'll be sweet. And Steve's just he literally was whooping them one after another. And there's no way any of those kids went home to their mom and dad and said, hey, this retarded kid beat me in chest. No, they didn't say that. No.
They got home and when they got asked, so how was chest up? It was okay.
It was okay.
It was okay. Yeah, it's all right. I'm so glad we've retired that terrible term retarded. And even recently when some people use it, it just makes me cringe.
Oh, I've got a couple of friends who still use it, and every time they say that word, it's just like the hair on my back, just not that.
Yeah, it's not a fair word. It's it stigmatizes them. It immediately makes them less than. Yes. And I love what Temple Grandin says, and I quote her a lot. Temple Grandin, her favorite quote, her mantra is different, not less. Different, not less. And that's what I say about Steve all the time. Definitely different. And I describe Steve in the book. It'll make you laugh the way I describe Steve, because he was a funny guy too. But he was different. You saw it the minute you saw him, but it didn't mean he was less than or not fully human or not capable, because he held a job, the same job for 33 years before he was taken from us tragically. But Steve had many capabilities. And that's why I hate the word retarded too, because it makes us think these people aren't capable. And that they're less than.
Yeah, and it carries a very ugly tone to it. You know what I mean? I don't like it. And there's a lot of words like that in our society. We live in an area where it's a fairly large Black community, and they love to throw around the N-word a lot.
Oh, man.
I've had them come into the shop, and they start talking to each other, and I've stopped and said, listen, gentlemen.
Good.
If you want to use that word outside, that's great. Inside my shop, I'm very uncomfortable hearing that word. I would appreciate it. And they were very apologetic. They're like, sorry. And then they cleaned right up. It's just, I get in certain communities that, you're allowed to say that to each other. You know what I mean? Not that it's appropriate, because I still think it demeanors each other. Yeah. But, just like, so I'm gay, and in my community, there are words that we will use to each other, but we get very offended if somebody outside says it. And I still, and try not to use those words as much anymore, because they still, even inside communities, carry a stigmatism to them. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's not really the right way you want to present yourself or your community,
Right.
Yep. Linguistically, we absolutely have words that are used to demoralize or belittle or lessen other people. There's all kinds of words. We could make a long list. Wouldn't that be a fun episode?
I don't know what we do entitle that. Words we can't say anymore?
Yeah. I have a chapter on that, Angela, that you'll get to, called Words That Try to Define Steve. And I take us back in the medical past a long time ago, when medical science did use words like moron for people like Steve, imbecile, defective, deficient, words like that today make us cringe, but back then they were medical terms, right?
Yeah.
And mentally retarded was a medical term. It was eventually President Barack Obama who outlawed it federally through a thing called Rosa's Law. Rosa was a little girl with Down syndrome, and he basically, federal law said, stop using that word. It's not a correct medical terminology to understand people with intellectual disabilities. So
I'm surprised it took that long and that many presidents to get that.
I know.
That's a shocker.
And then you have another president turns around and uses the word again. I mean, like, okay. I'm like, okay.
I won't mention any names, but we know who we're talking about.
I'm not dropping any names, except Temple Grandin, who's my hero, wrote the foreword to my book. Did I mention that?
We love Temple. Oh my goodness, she's accomplished some things for sure.
Yeah.
And we love name dropping. So name drop all you want.
Yeah, we do. Well, I was just in shock and awe when I was looking for somebody to write the foreword for my book. I won't drop names, but I sent messages to what I would consider some celebrity names who I knew had family members with disabilities. And I said, would you write the foreword? Would you read my manuscript? It wasn't finished yet. Would you read it? Would you be interested in writing the foreword? Heard from nobody except Temple.
Really?
Yeah. I
would have been
mention
honored.
any names. But man, Temple Grandin emailed me back and she said, and she's a woman of few words. Believe it, she does talk a lot, but she doesn't like typing a lot. So when she types, she's a woman of few words. So she's like, Stuart, send me your manuscript and let me look at it. And that was about all she said. And I thought, oh my God, this is exciting. And then I got panic stricken. I thought, oh my God, my manuscript sucks. My manuscript probably sucks. She's not gonna, I don't want to send it to her. I haven't even had a copy editor look at it yet. Oh my God. So there's going to be punctuation problems. I know there is, spelling mistakes. So anyway, I sent it to her, and it was about 2 to 3 weeks later, I got an email back, and she had said, Stuart, this is a beautiful story, beautifully written. I will absolutely write a short foreword for you. And I'm like, oh my God, I hit the lottery. I felt like I'd hit the lottery. This is Temple Grandin, people. So thank you, Temple Grandin.
We'll make sure we put her in the side notes when we edit for publication, so she gets a fair shake on that.
And folks, if you don't know who Temple Grandin is, there's an HBO movie about her life called Temple. Yeah. And there's a wonderful documentary called An Open Door, which is her life again, and kind of in her own words. And that's a beauty. You will really get to know who Temple Grandin is, and you will be floored by an autistic person who's really quite a genius and what she's accomplished in her world of animal sciences. She's now professor at Colorado State. And she and I have had a couple of conversations. I don't want to, you know.
Who wins?
She's fun to talk to. She's fun to talk to.
So this has just been delightful so far. I absolutely love having you on the show.
Thank you.
I love your personality. You're very animated, and I'm enjoying that a lot.
Oh, well, that is who I am. I know people think I'm hyped on caffeine, Red Bull, or crack cocaine, but I'm not. This is just who I am.
That's great. I mean, that just makes for a nice conversation when we have, you know, that.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, my brother Stephen laughed a lot, and his story is the book is not a tragedy, it's a triumph. He had, you know, tragic moments, and there were tough moments, but he also had great triumphs, like graduating high school and being in the Boy Scouts and holding a job and getting married. You know, he had some triumphs in his life, and he taught us all some things about even our Christian faith, because we grew up in the church.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Yeah, and Steve took faith in Jesus very seriously. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Tango. Ask me that question.
Oh, I thought you had it already. Now I got to find it again. Where'd it go?
Stuart, why do you believe in Jesus? Have you lost your mind? Is that the question?
No, I would never say that. I was raised very, very Catholic, so
good.
And my husband is always like, I'll say something and he'll take a step away. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm not going to get struck by lightning. You
no
keep saying what you're going to say.
Yeah,
but yeah, I lost that now. Where was it?
Well, that's okay. I'll just tell you that we grew up in the church. We started going to church when I was about 10 years old. My father, I don't go into detail in the book. My father was an alcoholic, and he was an abusive alcoholic.
Same here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, you know the path that we walked. You know, some drunks are funny and playful, and some are just mean. And we got the mean guys. Dang it.
Which is funny because I'm a very funny drunk.
Oh, see? But so my dad finally, long story short, on his own, I give him so much. He kicked the alcohol habit. We were kind of a poor family. We lived in a 1,000 square foot house, 6 of us. And me and my 2 brothers shared a tiny bedroom that hardly had room to turn around in. But my father couldn't afford rehabilitation. So for 1 week, he went to the back bedroom and mom said, don't bother him. And all we saw was mom taking him meals. He went through detox on his own and he kicked the habit. And my father grew up in the church, so he knew the only way to get his life back in order, he needed God again. So he drug us along with him to God. So we went to a good old Baptist church.
I almost feel like you're like my doppelganger, because all these things I grew up. So 6 of us grew up in a 10 by 50 mobile home.
Okay.
And me and my brother, my sisters had the bedrooms. Me and my brother slept on the living room floor.
Oh my!
In sleeping bags. You know what I mean?
Oh
so
my.
It's funny you say all this stuff. It's like, do I have a long lost brother somewhere?
You and I do have a lot in common. We do.
Yes.
We do. Oh, but my father, I'm just so proud of him because he went through some tough years, and the book kind of explains why he went. And my mom went through tough years too. Stephen wasn't the only child they eventually lost. They lost a 15-month-old child while dad was in the Army. So they saw some tough times. They were poor. But anyway, so dad just thought alcohol was the cure, and eventually he realized it wasn't. And he realized church and getting God in your life was the right cure. And that changed everything. And so growing up in the church with Steve was also a blessing, because man, he took church seriously. And even after he was an adult and he was living semi-independently, he couldn't drive. You didn't want Steve to try to drive. On his driving test, he had a wreck, so he failed. So this is a true story. His driving test, bam. So he didn't get a license. So Steve would ride his bike everywhere. He'd ride it every Sunday to a church. He would ride it every day to work. He never believed in missing work. He would show up to work sick, and his supervisor would say, Steve, go home. He was faithful. You know, when you committed to something in Stephen's young childlike mind, for whatever reason, when you committed, you committed.
Yep.
That's church, that's work, that's family. You know, that's the way you live life. And so, and
my uncle's the
unfortunately,
same way.
Yeah, and I hate to be the spoiler alert, but the book starts out with, as Angela knows, with me receiving some really bad news. And that bad news was one day at age 52, this was 20 years ago, Stephen riding his bike to work, a car did not see him on a cold winter morning. The driver had not scraped the windshield thoroughly enough. He didn't see Steve, hit him and killed him. And the book kind of begins there, and it takes you through all the themes, not the
How do you expect me to finish the book if that's how it starts? I won't be able to. I'm 60, man. I'm already losing control of my emotions as it is. You want me to read a book that starts off with that? My husband's like, what's wrong with you? He's like, read this book.
Yeah. It starts out with oh my gosh, really? And then it takes you through Steve's life, and it's a joy. It's a joy. And then it ends with us laying Steve to rest, and then the aftermath of that. So It's a full circle journey. You know, Tango, when I started writing the book, I had so many different versions. I started out thinking, I'm not going to tell the reader that Steve dies until the very end. And I thought, and as I kept writing his story, there's no way to not reveal this. I'm going to have to reveal this from the very beginning. There's just no way around it. In my mind, there wasn't. So I kind of start with the assumption that, oh dear, something happened to Steve, and that I'm rushing back from Chicago to the hospital. And then you don't really know what happens fully to Steve until near the end when he does pass away.
Right. No, I think that's a beautiful way to write the book. You know,
I should not be saying all this because no one's going to want to buy the book. They're like, God, why?
No, I think you're making it. I think. Yeah, because I think you're making it. I'll wait for the movie.
Yes, movie. I want a movie.
Well, I was just thinking, like, this is probably a movie that I would probably cry all the way through. You know what I mean? But I bet you it would be a really, really good movie. I mean, it just, you know,
I think so.
I'm gonna have to get a copy. We've talked to so many authors in the last year and a half, and we've got so many books on order. And I can't tell you, the last time I read a book was in high school. Now I got all these books I got to read.
And that was that stupid book called Moby Dick that we all had to read.
Yeah.
We all had to read that. Or Romeo and Juliet, that piece of crap. We all had to read that.
Those were books we did not enjoy.
The Catcher in the Rye, all those books. All the required reading. But Steve was an ordinary guy who lived kind of an extraordinary life. But Steve is really somebody who represents millions and millions of special needs people. He wasn't famous. He wasn't on a book cover or in a magazine or on TV or the Kelly Clarkson show. That would help me sell books. But Steve's story just represents what's hundreds of thousands, millions of people go through, because all of us, I'm venturing almost all of us know somebody or know of somebody with special needs, especially in the world of autism now. So many autistic diagnoses now. Yeah. So we all know.
With the awareness of that being brought up so much now, like you were just saying, autism now has become like a front runner of a lot of things, because people associate it mostly with children, because that's when you usually, figure that there's something different happening.
Yeah.
And, so I think it's great. I think, in fact, we're doing an autism walk this weekend for my great nephew. So that'll be fun to do.
That's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. And and I guess I just want people to know the book's not just about Stephen's life. It's if you look on Amazon, oh my gosh, the book reviews, I am so overwhelmed and blessed by. I've got nothing but 5-star book reviews from almost 80 people now, which I think is just bizarre. Somebody, Angela, you can be the first. Go on there and hate it. Give it a 1 star.
No, because we're hoping maybe later on, maybe you'll do a follow-up book or another book, and we want to have you back on again. We don't.
We're gonna be talking about your movie.
Right.
Have you back to tell us all about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but
we don't want you.
I love what readers are saying about how it's changed their thinking and their feeling, because I'll make this part really quick. I know we're just about out of time, but I call the book a mirror, a memorial, and a movement. And real quickly, what that means, when you read the book, as Angela's listening to me, God bless her, God help her, as she's listening to me read the book, it is a mirror, because it's going to force every listener or reader to say, how am I judging and responding to people with special needs? Because I know that I'm judging them wrongly, and I know that I'm fearful and I'm pitying them, and I shouldn't. I need to look at myself and figure out, how am I going to move past my prejudice and my preconceived notions and stigmas, and see these people as beautiful and fully human and worthy of love and acceptance. So it's a mirror. And obviously the book's a memorial about Steve, that's obvious. And lastly, it's a movement, because I'm now asking the reader towards the very end to simply ask the question, now what? Is this just going to be a story that I really liked? Or am I going to do something different in my life? I don't have to lead a cause. I don't have to start a charity or a foundation.
But you don't have to cross the road when you see somebody with disability.
How am I going to treat people differently with disabilities and example that for everybody around me? What will I do differently going forward? So it's a mirror, a memorial, and a movement. And I hope that's, and based on the reviews I'm getting, that's exactly what readers are saying it is. And I'm so happy about that. Mission accomplished, check mark.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm going to just say you have been an absolute delight on the show. We really appreciate taking the time out to talk to us.
Thank you, sir. You too. This has been fun. This is honestly one of the most fun, if not the most fun conversation I've had. It's because you guys are dynamic personalities, and that makes it fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're really enjoying it. We're finding most people most of the reviews we get are, it didn't feel like an interview. It felt like I got out of work, I grabbed a cocktail, sat down, and just had a chat with friends.
Exactly. And that's what I'm going to say in my review. Exactly. Although I wish you had handed me a beer through, the virtually. If you had handed, because I'm sitting here with a stupid glass of water trying to stay sober, and
I can see your eyes
well.
move every time I pick my mug up. Like he's looking at my beer mug. I know he's looking at the beer mug.
Oh, I love it. I love beer. I love wine. Yeah. I love a good bourbon, but we'll talk about that another time.
Oh, I love a good bourbon too. Oh yeah, that's a whole other story. Stuart, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
This was wonderful.
And God bless you for the book, because that's amazing.
Thank you. God bless the two of you. Thanks for letting me come on.
Absolutely.
Invite me back. Invite me back. We'll talk about whatever.
Yeah,
oh, we would love to.
Great. We love that.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Thanks, Stuart. Bye-bye.
I want to stop. There goes.
Are we off the air?
Well, I'm trying to stop it. It won't stop. Apparently, the program just wants you to keep going. Let me try one more time. Have a good night.
Is this a sign from God? Are we supposed to keep going? Well, I'm going to leave. I got a granddaughter's t-ball game to get to. I'll see you later.
You leave.
Don't miss that.
Yeah, you leave while I try to figure out how to get my end to stop.
You guys are the best. Bye.
Bye.
Did I end before?
It actually won't let me end.
That really was a wonderful conversation.
It really was.
Yeah, my chair, it doesn't go any further up. That's why I'm sitting so low.
I'm afraid to just cancel this,
Right, because then you won't.
It's not even picking up the right things down here. I don't think it likes being in split screen.
I wonder if anybody was listening to us today.
I didn't see anybody on. Oh, you mean on other channels?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is still recording and I can't get it to stop. I'm afraid to just.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to lose this one.
No, I didn't know if you'd share one any higher.
I know. I was trying to at least sit up a little bit.
Get you a cushion.
I do have a cushion on here, but that's what I was afraid of with this one.
It's uploading. Look at that, would have told us who was on each thing there. What is your problem? Yeah, I'm afraid. No, it says it's uploading constantly, so I think we can just close it, I guess. Never had this happen before. No. The best says it's